I don't believe it's enough to simply go on reputation when making such an important decision about which secondary school to send your child. At the same time, it helps no one to be that pushy parent that asks 151 questions to unsuspecting teachers and staff. So I've compiled a list of some of the things that you can consider when making a decision about which secondary school will be the best fit for your child. The first thing I'm going to discuss is leadership. Now, in any sphere of life, leadership is essential, especially when it comes to the running of a school. So I think this is a really good place for us to start. So what are the principal's plans for the school? What is the direction the school is going in? How much authority and power do they have to actually implement their plans? For example, are they controlled by a board? Now, you need to appreciate that your child is going to be directly affected by these decisions or lack thereof. So it's important that you have a good grasp of this. Other things to consider include, what is their education philosophy? Are there examples where this philosophy has worked well elsewhere? Their practices may be completely new, but that doesn't mean that they can't work. What you need to know is, have they been researched and thought out well? How long is the headmaster's contract? And if it's coming to an end soon, who's in line to replace them? And the same questions that we've just asked apply. What's their vision for the school and hence your child? I think it also pays to look at the leadership team as well as the headmaster or the headmistress, because no headmaster or headmistress can lead alone. So it's important who is around them and the leadership team that are going to be governing the school. The next thing I'm going to discuss is arguably one of the most important things, and that is the culture of this school. Now, school isn't just a vehicle for your child to get grades, but it's also a time where they're going to develop a lot emotionally, socially, in other areas of their life. So it's really important to understand the culture in which your child is going to be surrounded for up to 5 to 7 years. So some of the things that you can do to investigate culture include the following. Attend all the open days for the schools you're interested in. Make sure your child is present and include them in the decision-making process. An extra tip I would give is, if it's possible, arrange a viewing during the normal school day so you can see what the school looks like away from the glitz and glamour of an open day. If you can speak to current parents and current students and gain first-hand accounts on what it's like to go and study at the school, this is also very useful. Now, for this particular point, it's really important you gain as many perspectives as you possibly can, because one parent's experience is not necessarily another's. And speaking to lots of people, you will get the general gist of what's going on and how people are receiving the school. Also think about if they have a high turnover of staff. If so, why? And what criteria they use to hire. Teachers are going to spend the most time out of anybody with your children, so it's really important that you get a flavor of the types of teachers they are hiring, they are employing, because they're going to have a direct impact on your children. If you do get the opportunity to speak to teachers, ask some of the questions that are important to you, but please do this in a respectable manner. Nobody likes a pushy parent or somebody that's rude and presumptuous. So bear this in mind when you're engaging with people at the school that you're looking to apply to also. Now, another aspect of culture we need to consider is around academics. Now, we all know that academic performance is incredibly important when it comes to schooling. But for a lot of children, it's not too helpful to be in an environment where it's only focused on academics, i.e. an academic hothouse whereby they're just expected to churn out grades after grades after grades and not much care or diligence is given to pastoral support or development. So you need to consider this also. And finally, when it comes to culture, think about what your values are at home. And does your school reflect this? Is the school you're applying to compatible with this? These things are all very, very important when it comes to deciding where you're going to send your children. Now, the next area we're going to concentrate when deciding which secondary school to apply to is extracurricular activities. So you need to find out what extracurricular options are there and how much provision is available for these extracurricular activities. Your child might excel in sport or music or another area. Will they be nurtured along with their studies? And if so, to what level? Are there opportunities for school trips? If so, what is their frequency? Some trips that sound very good on paper may only be available in later years, so you also need to consider this. Now moving on, we're now going to concentrate on another aspect that's very important, and that is travel. Now a lot of parents don't mind sending their children slightly further to send them to a really, really good school. But you need to bear in mind that they're going to be making this journey for 5 to 7 years. So this is a major factor that you also need to consider. There may be a closer option that's just as good for your child. What are the transport links like to the school? Some schools have a school bus system. Does your prospective school? Traveling 2 hours in, traveling 2 hours out, this will definitely add up over the course of the weeks, the months, and the years. And this is time that is taken away from other activities. So bear this in mind when you're selecting a secondary school. The next one is a big one, and that is finance. Namely, can we afford this? This mainly applies to private schools, but you also need to consider things like travel costs, the car journeys, the train journeys, petrol, all of these different kinds of things when making your decision. And also things like kit. If your child is involved in extracurricular activities, you'll probably need to invest in some sort of equipment for them to further their extracurricular activities. Now, many parents are completely comfortable sacrificing for their children and plunging their family into financial hardship to send them to the best schools. But I would really invite you to do your research and really evaluate if this is the best and most effective option for you. For many families, this is a viable option, but for others, there may be alternatives. So for example, there are parents that instead of spending thousands on a private school will send their children to a high-performing academy, grammar, or even state school. And if they feel they need further help, they can use the money saved to invest in private tuition if it's needed. And this can be a much cheaper option than sending them to a fee-paying school. Now, it is also important to note that going to these prestigious schools is not always a guarantee of future success and financial stability. However, there is a body of evidence to suggest that it certainly does help. Now, we can't talk about finance and not talk about the availability of scholarships and bursaries. Now, almost all private schools have some sort of scholarship or bursary scheme, so it's really important that you do your research and see what's available for you. A scholarship is money given by the school to pay for school fees. Scholarships awarded at private schools are mainly awarded on the basis of academic, sporting, or musical potential and can have a separate application process. Their value can be different depending on the institution. Some may offer a maximum of 50%, whereas others will offer full scholarships for different durations of study, depending on academic performance, sporting, or musical progress by the student. Some schools may also offer a bursary. Now, a bursary is slightly different from a scholarship. A bursary is an amount of money given by the school for a student to study. The difference here from a scholarship is that they may often be means tested. For example, you could be eligible for a bursary if your household income falls beneath a certain amount. Now, a lot of schools could have both of these options available, but scholarships and bursaries are always very, very competitive. If you are interested in this and feel you may qualify, it's really important that you do your research and get ahead of those application deadlines. So these are just a few considerations that I think are important for parents to consider when selecting a secondary school. Another really important question I think is very, very crucial is not only what will my child achieve, but more importantly, who will my child become? From the answer to this question, you can make an informed decision on where would be a really good fit for your child. So in summary, things to consider when selecting a secondary school are leadership, culture, extracurricular activities, travel, and finance. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you like any more information around these topics, please feel free to have a look at the companion article that I wrote for this video. If you found it useful, please feel free to share, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next video.